I purchased an old, abandoned mining town. Yes, an entire town measuring 15 acres that used to have a population of over 300 people. These days it's a bunch of old houses. Most have already fallen to the ground. There's a small hotel on the property, which is where I currently live in. It all started back in 2015. I was tired of my everyday life, living in a studio in the middle of the city in New York. I was a project manager for a software company, full of angry anti-social developers. I didn't have any friendships at work, and needed a new change in my life. I was working long 14-hour days, and had burned myself out while I saved my money in hopes of a better future ahead. I used to look through old farms for sale every night before bed, but everything was far too expensive, until one day I saw an old hotel for sale, and it was way under my budget. I spent the entire night researching the place and noticed it was an old abandoned mining town. They had a huge silver deposit within the rocks of the mountain, and a large amount of miners and their families used to live on the property. The listing didn't say anything about the other old houses littered all over the property, and had only mentioned it was a large 35-acre parcel within the mountain area of New York, with a small old hotel that needed to be rehabbed. I couldn't sleep the entire night, just thinking about the opportunity to start a new life in my own town. I emailed the listing agent and received an instant reply saying they received my information and would give me a call tomorrow morning. The next day, I took my break early as my phone began to ring. It was an unknown number, which happened to be the real estate agent in charge of showing the property. I scheduled a time to go look at the property, as the real estate agent said I had the authority to enter on my own, as the place was unlocked. It was a Friday morning, which means I would be free over the weekend to go look at the property and check out the old hotel, and see if I could live in it, while I slowly begin to remodel the place myself. I have some basic experience working on homes, since I had already fixed up an old home and sold it a few years back. The next morning, I woke up at 4 a.m. and began to head out towards the property. It was several hundred miles away. It would take me 3 hours to arrive. I had arrived to the entrance of the gates and saw a sign that said Gunner's Mine, hanging off a bolt about to rust off. The research I had done online about the old mining operation said it was called Gunner's Mine, so I instantly knew I had arrived at the right place. There was a no trespassing sign that had at least a dozen bullet holes growing right through it. I figured some teenagers must have used it for target practice this far out in the hills. I didn't think much of it as I drove my pickup truck through the rocky trail, as I could see a bunch of old wooden homes all over the property. They weren't in any specific order, as some had fallen to the ground already, taken over by termites. I saw a lot of old good wood I figured I could use to repurpose any projects I may have to do. I pulled up to the small hotel, and when I say small, I mean tiny. I don't even know why it's called a hotel, but it only had 2 rooms, each one with a bathroom and a kitchen area. I guess someone had tried to start a business years back. They were advertising the opportunity to experience paranormal activity in an old mining town. It was so far away from the city. They went out of business, and nobody had worked on the hotel in what looked like decades. It had some old tables still in the dining area. They looked to be from the 70s, so I figured it's been at least 40 years since this had been used before. There was some graffiti on the walls, which probably was some kids exploring the old hotel out in the mountains. I opened the bathroom and couldn't believe my eyes. It was full of coyote skeletons, as if someone had been collecting tons of bones and storing them in the bathroom. This kind of freaked me out, as I wondered why there would be so many bones in the bathroom, as I figured maybe it was some old crazy hippies doing some rituals back in the day. Besides the bones all stacked up in the bathroom, I figured I could overhaul this entire place in just a few months' time. I could change out the old rotting wood before the termites finish it, and replace all the carpets, and put new tile in the bathrooms. I could eventually start my own small farm and begin living off the land, since this place is over 1 hour from the nearest town. At that moment, I came to the conclusion I wanted to buy the place. I hadn't explored the rest of the property, but figured I could live in the small hotel meanwhile I decide to figure out what I do with the rest of the land. After about 3 weeks, all the paperwork had been finalized, and the 35-acre old mining town was officially mine. I packed my few belongings I had and purchased some new tools at the hardware store I would need to begin the restoration. I bought new paint, shovels, and some electric hand tools to help cut wood and drill holes. I felt like I was ready to take on the world. I was going to be a one-man team and build my new homestead. I headed back towards the Gunner Mine, which I figured I would keep the same name since it sounded pretty cool and had lots of history behind it. As I pulled up to the property, someone had ripped off the Gunner Mine sign and replaced it with a new sign that said, "Stay out, you've been warned." I sat there confused, wondering who would have put this sign up. It was only a cardboard sign written with a pen, so I had to get close to it to be able to read it. I tore it down and threw it in the back of my pickup as I drove up the dirt road headed towards my new home. I arrived to the hotel as I could see some clothes sitting on the porch. I figured someone had been here since I didn't see the clothes the last time I came to inspect the property. I parked my pickup and opened the front door to the hotel. I jumped back from the fear as I saw a group of men huddled in a circle burning a dead coyote. I think I scared them just as much as they scared me, as I heard one of them jump and scream the moment I opened the door. One of the guys came to the door and said what I was doing here, as I told him I'm the owner of the place and I'm coming to live here now. The guy stood there surprised and apologized for squatting in the property. They seemed rather embarrassed and weren't expecting anybody to show up. They all gathered their stuff, including the dead coyote, and hiked down the dirt path headed towards the main road. This now explained all the coyote bones I found in the bathroom. It was a group of men doing what looked like some sort of witchcraft. Now I was a bit worried that this place might be haunted with some paranormal beings from all the witchcraft that's been going on here. I'm not really afraid of the paranormal, and I already had put my savings into the property, so I wasn't backing down now on day one. It's an old place with a lot of history, so I'm not expecting a brand new home in the suburbs. I began cleaning up the mess inside the hotel, throwing everything out front. I put all the bones in plastic bins and decided to bury them a few 100 feet away in the hills. The least I could do for these poor animals is give them a burial site after dealing with those weirdos torturing them. A few hours had gone by and the place was already looking cleaned up. I sat on the porch eating lunch when I heard the voice of what seemed like a child playing inside one of the hotel rooms. I lowered my radio and said, "Hello? Is somebody there?" When I heard a noise, what sounded like footsteps inside the room I hadn't cleaned out yet. I thought to myself, there was also someone squatting in there, and I opened the front door and was greeted with nothing but a dirty room. The dust blew in my face as I swung the door open and there was nobody there. The bathroom didn't have a door, so I could see the entire room from the entrance, and that's when the hair on my arms began to rise. I know I heard a child playing, but to my surprise, there was nobody there. It's only been 1 day, and I've already ran into some crazy guys doing rituals, and now I've heard the sounds of what sounded to be a kid. I was second guessing my choice in buying this place, and began to think I moved too quickly, but at this point, I would embrace my purchase and continue with my plans. It's been 5 months now since I have been living here. I got the place looking great. I only finished my side of the hotel room and still need to earn some more money to fix the other side, which I could probably rent out eventually. I now understand why someone started the hotel, advertising paranormal experiences. Over the past 5 months, I've experienced more unexplained encounters. I try not to think of them. At least once a week, I hear the sounds of chains banging around from the local mine that still has an open entrance. I can hear the chains non-stop, from around 6 p.m. until early hours of the morning. I never dared go check the mine and figured I would leave that to whatever is in there making those noises. I've had mysterious knocks on my front door on occasion, and every time I answer, there is nobody there. My girlfriend no longer stays here with me, after she said there was a man sitting at my kitchen table one morning while I was out in the garden area. He sat there drinking his coffee. She was so scared she couldn't even scream from the fright. She ended up running out the room towards me while I was in the garden, as she fell to the floor crying, saying some man was sitting in our room. When I went back to check, there was no signs of anybody being there besides us. The more this happens, the less scared I become. I now sometimes reply to the random noises I hear, but never heard them answer back.